our hometown hero. He is both a Turner Prize winner and an Oscar winner, and we are delighted to have him come and share himself because he is in high demand this evening. Hi, Steve, and thank you for joining us.
Can you hear me? Hello, how are you?
Fabulous, but I'm hoping you're doing much better than we are because you have so much to look forward to this coming week with the release of your quintet of movies called Small Acts that highlight the Black Caribbean experience.
Yes, looking forward to people seeing the work. Yes, on Sunday, 9 o'clock on BBC One. Yeah.
So I'm wondering, there are lots of things. When I watched your films, I felt like you had produced the soundtrack to my life, my brother's life, and my sister's life, but that it felt like you had snatched moments from my brain or from my own childhood experiences and placed them on the screen. And I think that's the first time that our collective experiences as Black Britons or British Caribbeans or West Indians has been expressed creatively, artistically in that way. So what was the genesis of your brilliance in your expression in this film, or these films?
Well, it was a kind of a want and a need. I wanted to sort of see stories that I grew up with, stories that I knew about on screen. And I think it was very important that, you know, one sees themselves in the context of everything else. Because when you don't really think that often you are not important, and we are important. In fact, we've changed the landscape, we've changed the culture, we've changed the political landscape of this country. And I wanted to sort of have these films, as it were, on the BBC. So that was a start. That having a situation where I could influence the sort of the mindset of the viewers in a way. In order to see a part of their world, but also a part of other people's world that they had no idea about on screen. It was very important that it was sort of a part of the everyday, and that we could put it on a platform of importance that it deserves, our stories, absolutely.
Why is it so important for you, though, to tell those stories? Because there are other British Caribbeans or British West Indians or West Indians full stop that have gone to the United States and they didn't look back. So in Caribbean dialects, we could say them garfaro now rich and switch. And there are other people who've gone, Delroy Lindo's gone, Marion Jean-Baptiste has gone, but you've come back. Why is that your calling?
I don't necessarily think they've gone and made their money and they've forgotten us. I don't necessarily think that. I think they've gone to sort of further their careers because they weren't really welcome in, or invited or maybe even felt comfortable here because they couldn't expand their talent. So they had to go somewhere that they could do that. And it was important. It was very important for them to do that. They're not directors; they're actors. So therefore, you know, they don't have that much power in the way of actually making things happen until they get a particular point in their career, similar to like Idris Elba, where you can actually come back and do something. You know, you've got to have a bit of clout behind you before you can do anything. So yeah, I'm very happy for them. They went off to America and did well over there. I myself, you know, I had to have the time. I had the maturity and I had to have the distance to sort of look back in a way to actually have a handle on all this material, because it's similar to how you see your parents when you were a kid and how you see your parents now. It's as I do. You see it in a very different perspective. And I needed that experience and I needed that distance to sort of have an idea of what I wanted to do and how I wanted to do it. So, you know, sometimes it just takes time, you know. And I know I couldn't have done it. I know I couldn't have done it sort of say, when I made my first film, say 11 years ago. I couldn't have done it, no way.
But it took you about 10 years to realize this particular vision. What do you think the delay was? I mean, you mentioned maturity, but surely that can't be the only reason.
It wasn't a delay. It's about maturity. There's no delay. There's only the right time. And also, you know, when you can do something, when you can't, or when you need to sort of gather up sort of a certain kind of knowledge or certain kind of understanding. Like I said, maturity. There's no other reason other than that. it takes time for you to understand things in that depth, and I didn't want to come at it in a naive manner. I wanted to come at it with all my, guns blazing, and in a situation where I had a certain sense of understanding of everything. Again, being young and being older, there's a certain situation where it is true. You get wiser as you get older. And that's not to say when I was 38, when I made my first film, Hunger, I didn't have it, but I needed to go further in my understanding in order to sort of do something I felt could be seen as important, not just to me, but to my community, West Indian community.
Is that where your identity is firmly rooted? Because we call ourselves different things now. We call ourselves Black British, sometimes we're African Caribbean, but you're very clear in your insistence of using the term West Indian, and I'm wondered where that's rooted.
Well, I am West Indian for sure, it's my background, but I also am Black. Again, I think, I'm West Indian because it's my heritage, but I'm Black because, the fact of the matter is, again, I'm a Western Black man. I'm a Black man in England as a Black man in America, or a Black man elsewhere, and even in the West Indies as such. Again, there's no, I would say that I'm West Indian, but I'm Black. I'm Black and West Indian. Either or. But West Indian tells you a little bit about my heritage, and Black tells you who I am. Unavoidable, undeniable.
In terms of West Indian, so much what people in the region call themselves anymore. They're more inclined to call themselves Caribbean. So I'm hoping if you could extrapolate on that point a bit more. Is it reflective of a moment in time, or is it rooted in the British West Indian or Caribbean experience for those of us that came here, which is different from those that went to the United States? So for instance, my cousins that are based in Miami or New York, they call themselves Caribbeans as opposed to West Indians. So I'm wondering, it's interesting to me where that paradigm comes from and why it's important to you.
Oh, well, I don't necessarily. I'm not saying it's something which I'll live and die for. But what I love about that term West Indian is it tells you who I am and what I stand for. Again, as a Caribbean, I mean, it's an American term, or or even people adopting it here in UK. Fine, no problem. But I love the idea of West Indian, just like the West Indian cricket team. No ramping. We're here. We're here to stay. We're a force. That's why I like West Indian, because I know what that means to me when I was growing up, and I know what it means to people when I was growing up. So I love the stance of it. It's a no-nonsense stance. That's it. But again, if you want to adopt Caribbean, fine. I don't care. Do as you please. But I love the stance of West Indian because I remember the West Indian cricket team. I remember the fierceness. I remember my parents and the friends and family. There was a culture, and I love that term. That's me.
So that reminds me of the days of what my dad used to call the fire in Babylon.
For sure. Again, we come from rebel country, and that's about it. Again, we're not here to play. You know what I mean?
So indeed, it's a marvel to be a West Indian or a Caribbean or wherever you sit on that. But in terms of your other inspirations for the film, or for the series of films, where did they come from?
This came from the people, came from my parents, came from people, elders, came from a lot of, again, these are stories which I kind of knew about a roundabout way. My father, Roland Kentius was a very dear friend of him, part of the Mangrove. I didn't really know Roland and his idea and who he was until 10, 15 years ago. I didn't know he was in Mangrove 9, because as you know, a lot of West Indian people, again, in the elders, didn't really talk. They didn't really talk to children in that way. Again, there's a little sort of, children there to be seen and not heard, or you heard a little thing from cousins, or you heard a little bit of information here, and also I just think that there was a lot of trauma during that time, and it wasn't certain things that people wanted to share often because it was, again, it's wonderful speaking to you and like-minded people, because they will understand that and how information, sometimes only find out things now. Really? He's this person's cousin? Really? For some reason, a lot of information isn't shared. But, it's only now I'm asking my mother about certain things. So really, who's this person and this person? But we did a lot of research. Oh, well, hello. Can you hear me? Can you see me? Can you see? I don't know what happened there. We did a lot
I can see you. You're good.
I don't know what happened. There was a lot of research done by a woman called Helen Bart, who's absolutely amazing. That we did a lot of interviews myself and unearthed a lot of interesting stories. But a lot of the stuff that you see on Small Axe is about something which is sort of innate. I never forget. I remember going to a dance. You know, there was a dance of something in a place called the Clarendon. And I said, as a child, right, of course, the babysitters used to bring the children and they fall asleep on the chair there. And I never forget how people used to sort of dance with each other. My father often touching my mother's elbow and all the way down her forearm into her hand. There was a etiquette. There was a way of, there was a ritual which people kind of discarded, I think, or not thought it was important. I love to sort of, I want to see that and show it in these films. You know, because we come from a tradition, a very rich tradition, which is all sometimes a little bit forgotten right now.
And we do, and you express that creatively, perfectly in Lovers Rock. And something else that actually brought tears to my eyes was when I saw the pot of curry goat on the stove, and I was like, "This is my life. This is my life." And these are things that are so unique, I think, to our experience here. And I often remember being a child, being stuck in the back room where you used to have the peep, 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 peep. And then you'd turn into the cloakroom or the cloakroom lady when you're just a kid at the end of the night. And that was really beautiful. And I think what I appreciated in that film as well was the way in which you gave prominence to Lovers Rock, which is a genre of music which I think is generally excluded from the contribution to music now as today as it is in Britain. And so I wanted to ask you then, who is your favorite kind of Lovers Rock artist or your favorite song?
I've got to say, The Investigators. That tune was just, what was the tune called again? Oh God, what was it? Oh God, I'll have to start to sing the whole tune to get to.
No, sing it. I might know it. I'll join in.
Tell me what you think of me, baby. You.
Okay, so
I can't remember. I think saying tonight. Oh God! And everyone's watching this. I know the tune. You're not the tune. I know the tune. Anyway, it's a beautiful song by the Investigators, and it's gorgeous. It's very vulnerable. It's very beautiful, and we have it in Lovers Rock, which is I just love that song. I love it. It's the falsetto voice. Beautiful, and of course, there's a couple of other people I like very much. Janet Kay, of course. This is silly games. I mean, ridiculous. Me and my sister. Oh my God, we used to have singing competitions about silly games, of course, and she would win. I'd be upset. So there you go, Janet Kay. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So
and you spoke about
what do you call yourself? What do you Caribbean? You in West Indian? What do you call yourself?
Do you know, I occupy different identities based on where I am. And I have that transatlantic experience as well. So I thought it was interesting that you used Paul Gilroy as kind of your consultant on your film, because he speaks about this kind of back transatlantic identity. And I absolutely embody that. So when I'm with people that are maybe 50 up, they're all West Indians, whether they're Black, African West Indians, Indian West Indians, and then anybody probably 40 down is a Caribbean.
Yeah, interesting.
So it's very strange, but for me, I'm a West Indian because that is the language and the narrative that I grew up with in my family, and that was how I was identified. I mean, I didn't have the privilege of considering myself to be remotely English until Tony Blair won his election. And then, I mean, when I was at school, I remember I had a headmaster who said to me, Drummond, just because a dog is born in a barn doesn't make it a horse.
He said that to you?
Oh, yeah. And so I was never under any illusion about who I was or what I was in this context. So I was firmly rooted, and I had rebel parents. So I was firmly rooted in being an other and finding spaces and ways to create pride in my own identity, but definitely to contribute to my broader and global community.
I never forget, because when I was growing up, you would never wear an England shirt. No one would wear an England shirt. You wouldn't wear an England football shirt. The shirt that you would wear, if you could get hands on it, was a Brazilian football top. You would never wear an English football top. Are you kidding me? So, there was a time when I used to see all these black children wearing England football tops. So, wow, okay, things have changed. Things have changed. Things have changed. Because no one in my generation would have worn an England football top. Never, ever.
And it has moved.
Yeah, it's moved on, and for the good.
I think it has moved on for the good. I have a brother that plays professional cricket, and he played for the England Lions. And we traveled to Australia to watch him play in the World Cup. And when he was playing against the West Indies, my dad's heart was broken because, of course, we want our brother to win, but we grew up as West Indies supporters. And so it was a challenge for us because, of course, we support Daniel, but if we support him, then the West Indies lose because he was the opening bat. But so this comes back.
You didn't pass Tippett's cricket test.
No, this is the point. We did not pass Tippett's cricket test. And it comes down to that dichotomy. How can you contribute fully and belong to a place where you're always an other?
Well, I think the younger people have taken over. I think I think the younger people have taken over, and hats off to them, and I'm following them. I'm behind them. They own it. I feel we own it. I own it. I don't necessarily think I'm another to anything. No one could tell me that. Our influence on this country and what we contribute to this country goes beyond. It goes to a place where this country is unrecognizable than before we've come. That's how much of a contribution and influence we've had in this country, with justice, with politics, with culture, popular culture. We've changed the fabric. We've changed the nature. So, it's ours. Thank you very much. Tell me it isn't. Tell me I'm lying.
Well, so about 25 years ago, you obviously know that Paul Gilroy published a book called There Ain't No Black in the Union Jack.
Really?
And do you think that book is still relevant then, or do you think that things have moved on so much that now there is some black in the Union Jack?
Well, I think time and place. And I think that was a book that helped get things sorted, helped get things started, helped get people understanding that we have roots in this country. Look, I started the series off with Frank Critchlow in 1968. In 1968, Frank Critchlow opened the Mangrove, okay? He put roots into the ground, okay? And it's in the same year that Enoch Powell gave his Rivers of Blood speech. And those roots are deep, so you can't topple it. You can't push it over. This isn't the Windrush generation when people go on about Windrush. This is another generation. This is another kind of topic. This isn't the late 50s or the 60s. This is 1968. So this is a wonderful, interesting, parallel. You've got this gentleman opening this restaurant in All Saints Road in Ladbroke Grove, Notting Hill, called the Mangrove. At the same time, Enoch Powell giving his Rivers of Blood speech. Where to stay? Where this is roots. I tell you a story. I'll never forget this story. So I used to work in King's Road. I used to work in Marks and Spencer's on the King's Road. I used to have to go District Line. I used to come off at, well, I don't know, where else come off at? Obviously Sloane Square, but I was in District Line. And one day I'm traveling, going to Sloane Square, and guess what I see opposite me? Enoch Powell. Enoch Powell sitting right opposite me. It must have been 88. Enoch Powell sitting opposite me, disheveled, old, disheveled. I'm not even kidding you, and old and whatever. So I'm like, cool, blimey. Anyway, and then what happens? Train stop and a stop. This African lady in the most brightest colors you could think of sits down plonk next to him with her baby on her shoulder. Okay, and the baby is scrambling up her shoulder, trying to get at Enoch, the baby. Enoch is just like this. He's like this, huddled, like looking at the baby, reaching for him. Woman she doesn't even know this, guys. She just pull the baby down. Baby's crawling up, trying to get onto Enoch. He's just huddled. You can see him. He's frail and right now. We won. And if I had a camera that day, oh my goodness, that picture was said 1,000 words. So again, I think. Sometimes it takes time. Obviously, it takes time. Like at the end of the end of Red, White, and Blue, when Courtier wrote the words, was it is slow turning wheel as far as change is concerned. But it's, we're more than there. We're more than there. We're more than there in so many ways, so many ways.
So yes, it's a slow turning wheel. And in terms of saying, have we won, isn't that more about your definition of victory? Because there's been so much blood lost. Because even in one of the Mangrove 9, he went to jail on some trumped up charges, and so the cost is so great. Like how do you define those wins? And also they're painful.
Of course they're painful. There's no other way, unfortunately. That's it. That's the nature of the beast. Of course they're painful. There's lots of things that have happened to me as an individual. Lots of things happen to you as an individual. I mean, that we have to come to terms with and deal with in ways that we need to and have to deal with. No one comes out unscathed, but the fact of the matter is that, it's a battle worth fighting for. What else are we going to do? Do you know what I mean? It's kind of like that's how it is. I mean, it's not pretty. But when I think of the Mangrove 9 and others who sacrificed, Stephen Lawrence and else, their lives, what for? They've done it for us to have a stake in this situation here, and because of the influence we had on here. So there's no going back. What else is it going to do? Look at these children, young people marching the other day in the street, protesting for George Floyd's in the killing of George Floyd. God rest his soul. That's the result of that. And they know, those children, they know what's at stake, but they're still willing to go out there and do the right thing. And hats off to them, because I'm learning so much from them. Absolutely. What they've given us, these young folks, is a voice that so many times people couldn't actually. What broke my heart the other day was just seeing this young lady from what's this pop group? I forgot the pop group's called. What's the pop group called? I'll get it in a second. Anyway, and this woman was talking about her life in this pop group as a black woman and what stuff she had to go through, Sugar Babes, what she had to go through. And I was just so impressed because finally this lady had a voice that she could actually speak it. This woman had a voice where she could speak and be listened to. And that was an amazing achievement. How many times have me and you, our generation, not said things or kept it quiet? Like, you can't speak now, you have to keep it low. And now all of a sudden, boom, people can actually have a voice and be listened to. So I'm grateful. I'm grateful. Unfortunately, things that sometimes take time, but that's how it is.
How do you see yourself within the struggle? You spoke about we all have our role to play. So you're clearly inspired by what we can call the Black Lives Matter protests in the United States that became global. How do you see your role in that liberation?
By me being me. Simple.
What is that? For those of us that don't know you, we get access to you through your work. But what does me being me mean contextually?
Me just be able to put one foot in front of the other, swinging both arms, and living and doing what I want artistically, going to a bookshop and buying a book. That's simple. It doesn't have to be, we don't have to climb Mount Everest. You know what I mean? It's just about being healthy, mentally and spiritually. That's it. That's a victory as far as I'm concerned. And being able to sort of access things you can, again, there's certain harder battles, harder doors to push open, but just to be able to put one foot in front of the other and be happy, wow. That's no
happiness.
That's no small thing. That's no small thing.
No, it's not a small thing. Often when we live in hostile societies and we can be under consistent attack.
That's exactly the point. That's exactly the point. Through all this, there's Lovers Rock. Through all this, there's a party. Through all this, there's carnival. Through all this celebration. Yes, we can't forget. Don't forget that that blues that we went to was being circumnavigated by sharks and alligators. That people were working 5 days a week, putting up with racist nonsense and working for the weekend, for the blues, to get to a refuge where they could see people as themselves and celebrate and dance and prance and be completely themselves. But thank God for the blues, and thank God for their perseverance, and thank God for church. And other things that hold us up are music and clothes and whatever you put your spirit into to sort of, you know, uplift the situation, you know, because we are, I think we West Indians and Caribbean and Black people, we're brand new. We are new people. There's never been anyone like us. I mean, look at that part of the world. It's incredible. So, what we've done is we've evolved in a way which I imagine most people would have bet against us. And don't get me wrong, it's not easy sometimes. It's not easy, but guess what? We must celebrate.
No, I agree. The celebration is key, and we have to support each other and each other's wins, and realize not all of those wins have to be like climbing Mount Everest, because we need to survive at the same time.
Oh, yeah, if Everest isn't even on the Everest is, look, I've been very fortunate in certain things that I've done for sure, but the best thing that I ever happened to me was that I was able to do what I could do. Once I was able to do what I could do, then I could maybe do other things. But the fact that I had an opportunity was the best thing I ever had. Then I could take it. Then there's no one, if I fail or if I succeed, then the only person I could judge me is myself. But just having, and sometimes, yes, it's difficult to get the opportunity. That's what flipping sure. That's what we got to fight for. Definitely. Absolutely. This is the other side of the coin. Where we have to sort of not give up on certain things. And I think we're, again, it's hard, it's difficult, but we know, sometimes you just got to know the problem in order to try and solve it, and not be blind to it.
You chose in Red, White and Blue, Leroy Logan as your subject. There were other Black police officers before him and others that had risen to higher ranks. What was it about his story that appealed to you, that you thought you could use in your creative expression?
His father. Because if you're talking about West Indian, or you're talking about, the first generation, the generation that came and the father, and Leroy, it's this masculinity thing, isn't it? This situation where two men. Well, a son and a father, really, but I have to sort of reconcile, I have to sort of deal with each other, and who's the man in the house and all that, and having to sort of, the father has his dreams for his son, and his son has other dreams and aspirations for himself. Let's not forget, Leroy was a research scientist, and a very talented one. Please go ahead.
No, indeed he was. And I've spoke to Leroy about the movie and about John Boyega's representation of him. And he said to me that it was in the silent moments where there was no track and it was just John's connection to the emotion, and that he felt that everybody that has been Black, and the male in particular, and discriminated against, and has to sit in that silent rage. And that was how, more so than anything else, he was able to connect. And I think that what happens in your quintet of films is that it speaks in silence. You use silence in a way that's so powerful. It gives legitimacy to another type of feeling, because I think in terms of stereotypes, we're considered to be angry Black people, but for so much of it, we're silent. Is that intentional?
Yeah, because we don't really speak, do we? Let's be honest. I mean, parents, again, I think a lot of the time, West Indian households, the kind of, a lot of things are said, but not things which are necessarily important, because things are hidden or people don't want to have those. Oops, I'm not too sure what's going on here. I'm sorry, I was at my screen. I don't know why that's happening. It's all that's never happened. Anyway, moving on. Talk about silence. It's one of those things where words sometimes aren't enough, and I think, I don't know. I'm trying to grasp onto this and I'm trying to go forward. But I just think with the father and the son, there was a thing where it was difficult to communicate. I mean, I think my father only told me he loved me once. That's when I was angry. That was weird. That was a weird story.
Share it. Tell us what was weird about that story.
No, that's not for you. And I think, how many times has your father told you he loved you? How many times?
Lots of times, but not until I was an adult. I told him that I hated him once, and then he said to me, "You don't have to like me, and you don't have to love me, but I love you."
Well, he got to that point, didn't he? He had to get to that point, similar to my situation. Well, it was a similar situation to yours. Like I said, you had to get to that point before people sort of confessed or their love for you. So silence is a big thing, I think, in the West Indian sort of, in that when I was growing up, at least, maybe, it wasn't a great thing, I think, but what they didn't know any better. And again, it's not so there was obviously, undoubtedly they loved you. Undoubtedly they meant my father, my mother, what they did for me and how they protected me. And my father took a lot of brunt. He wasn't sure of me going into film and art because he couldn't think of or see any success in it, and he wanted me to get a trade for all the good reasons. But that was never really communicated, And I think maybe within the silence that Leroy talks about, that was a part of it. That was like, which obviously I had to get to, I imagine, was very familiar with a lot of people, hopefully listening to this today. Yeah.
So Leroy, as an individual, faces still a great deal of hostility, not just from ex or former police officers, but also members of the broader Black community for being an officer, but also proud of his contributions to the Met. And I'm wondering whether or not you think that was the right decision, if all of the personal sacrifices that John Boyega's character then makes much later on in his life, if it is worth it, if the cost of holding firm is worth it.
Well, actually, when I was looking into Leroy's story, I couldn't understand why he joined the police in the first place. I mean, I imagine like most Black people. I mean, again, especially during the 80s. But I think, as I said before, there are certain people who have to go and try to make change, and often you go against the people that love you, his father, for example, or even the broader wider community. And was it worth it? Well, yeah, obviously, I think it was worth it in a way. Yeah, but he takes a brunt of a lot of it, I imagine, still to this day. But at the same time, without him, without people like him, there's no progress. It's just a fact. Yeah.
In terms of the legacy for your films and the interviews I've watched of you previously, you don't particularly like the use of the term career because you're primarily an artist first, and your work is a manifestation and an expression of artistry, which I completely understand and actually respect a great deal. But do you not have an idea as what you want your legacy of your films to be?
No.
Because you've put a great deal of time and energy and research into recreating the soundtracks of people's lives, music, food, language, dress. It's like an apparition what you've been able to do.
Listen, I'm very happy and I'm very excited to share it and to get people to see it, and I'm very proud of the films. But as far as career and legacy, that's for other people to deal with. I'm not bothered about that. People could talk about that when I talk about that. That's not my job. My job is to create and make. And don't get me wrong. I'm very appreciative and grateful for people to even think about those two words. Legacy and all that business. But I'm not precious on that because I think that's not my concern. And then you start looking at yourself in the mirror. It's like after a while, it's like, yeah, well, let's get on with it. Let's go and work. It's WORK. That's it. If we don't have evidence, that we could talk all day. And a career, and it's sort of self. Don't get me wrong. Maybe my mum does that, or other people, obviously. But I just want to sort of not think in those ways. Maybe you get to a certain point where you You do, maybe with age, if you're fortunate enough to get to the harbour of old age. But now, no. Let's just work. There's too much work to do rather than look at yourself in the mirror or even look back.
Where does your drive come from? It feels like your true self, your core self, you're so sure, your foundation is so set. Where does that come from?
No, I'm not sure at all. The day we started working on Small Axe, the day I didn't sleep all night. No, God, no. But I have to have faith in some things, of course. And you have to give over some of yourself to a sense of what's possible, because you're just excited about what you might be able to see, what you might be able to create. And I think, there's so many wonderful things I saw growing up, so many interesting things I want to communicate about, my culture growing up and who I was, and, so many things I had to get to this point in order to do. And, like my aunt going to that blues, my aunt, so my
Molly, Auntie Molly.
Auntie Molly. So check this out. So my Uncle Bertie used to leave the back door open for her to go to the blues, because my grandmother would be like, what's going on? And my grandmother, she's, oh my God, she was like we used to, when me and my sister, they used to sleep over my grandmother. She used to lock the door when we used to in bed. And in the morning she used to go, it's like, how dangerous that is now. And he come in with a breakfast in bed, and she used to, it's just wonderful to think of that house. And then my Uncle Bertie, he was like, he's a bit of Jack the Lad. And then Auntie Molly would be, they would be teenagers together. He'd be helping her to go to the blues. And in the morning, that was what would happen. She wouldn't sleep. She'd come up early in the morning, and next morning, time for church. So she hadn't slept a wink. She's come out from the blues. She's got to go to church. So things like that. And the food, my gosh, the food, the preparation. I mean, you remember the weddings. You remember the christenings. Oh, God, that was so... I'm kind of emotional about it now, because unfortunately right now there's a lot of funerals now. It's heavy. There's a lot of funerals right now. But I remember the weddings. I remember the christenings. I remember the sort of the Holy Communions. I remember the sort of all the things with so and so is getting christened, so and so is getting confirmed, and all the family went there. And you're dressing good, everyone dressing in a celebration. It was so, oh God.
It was enriching. It was like
so many stories more to tell, and I hope someone could bloody help me with them and do them themselves. I mean, I would love, there's so many things going on and stories. You hear about that one, there were little gossips, and you wouldn't even know half the things that were going on. And that was a wonderful thing, because kids used to know a lot more than the parents still thought they did.
No, of course. I remember. So when I used to do what your Aunt Molly did, and then when my mum found out, she put all the Dutch pots behind the door so she could hear when I came in.
Oh God!
And let me tell you,
you get licks.
I got licks.
You're gonna talk to the people that make you getting licks, are you?
No. It wasn't acceptable, but it was part and parcel of what the experience was. She sat on the stairs with her nightie and her head tie, and she soaked the belt in water. And as soon as she heard the pots, when I kind of bust open the door, man, it was rough. So I was just thinking, Molly is so lucky, because everyone's covering for her. All she lost was sleep.
She had a good brother. We love to talk to Uncle Bertie. He was great. He was a great uncle. He was a very, he's still around, Uncle Bertie. And he took me to my first football match, QPR versus Liverpool. I saw Stan Bowles. And it was like 77, 76. Yeah, when I was 7. Yeah, he was beautiful. Yeah, good uncle. Good uncle. Yeah, looked after us. Yeah.
In terms of food, the way in which you represented the culture in the films, it was lots of the exchanges between family members or individuals was around food, which is actually relevant to the culture, because our culture is very food based and we socialize in groups and in families. In terms of your food and the food that you particularly like,
okay,
what is that?
Oh boy. Oh. It's a problem. Okay, I like roti. Okay, I like curry chicken. I like a nice the soup, chicken soup with dumpling and potatoes and carrots. I like stewed chicken. I'm a chicken man. I mean, you know, again, there's a curry goat. I'm not all, but I mean, everyone else loves that. I'll fish. Oh God, I mean, oh my God, I'm salivating now.
Okay.
But also, you know what I most liked about it also? I just loved about it because it was beautiful. My father, every Christmas, used to make this big ham and put the clove. He used to all night used to be, and it's a radio on. I get emotional now because my dad. But he used to prepare his ham. That was his thing. Get the ham, and then for Christmas. And my dad was just amazing. And it's, oh my God, saltfish sauce, fish cakes.
Oil down.
Oil down. Oh my God, the oil down. You know, I mean, you know, that's another story. You could go.
Pilau.
But you know what's so beautiful about that? When people used to make the stuff, because it was a festive thing, especially when people say, okay, I'm coming around and maybe come and help you, but 2 or 3 in the kitchen, and they'll be cooking, and they'll be talking as well. So all this talk will be going on. Okay, I know this. Who's that person? Come out the kitchen. Come out the kitchen, because they know you were listening to what they say. And then the people rolling things and making things. It was just the preparation was, obviously it was home away from home from them, and to be surrounded by family and friends, it was beautiful. It was wonderful. Again, you know, you think people like Scorsese talking about, you know, his Italian family. Well, this is exactly what Small Axe is about. It's about, you know, my, you know, a certain, you know, even though these stories are sort of are stories about a resistance to a certain extent, but they're also about love. They're also about fun. They're also about dance. They're also about dress. Also about all of these things, because what we had to sort of tolerate, you know, resist. We didn't tolerate nothing. But we had to resist, and we still carried on. It's great. That's why, you know, listen, all I can say also to people out there listening is we have to take some time to sort of chill. We really got to take some time. Mental health is so important. I think that's the thing for Black people now is mental health and how they sort of deal with that. And, you know, and if it's meditation or whatever one has to deal with, it's very important that we take ourselves seriously and take ourselves out. And see how we can heal ourselves in so many ways. Because a lot of things we've spoken about, we haven't touched on. And I think, you know, again, as in gone deeper, but we brushed on them. I think a lot of the time we all just need to sort of take ourselves a little bit seriously in the way that we look at ourselves and give us, we need to sort of heal a lot of the time. Absolutely. Because Black people, we deal with so much extremes, you know, looking at things on the TV about, you know, some man being sort of beaten up or some woman being dragged across the floor, and it affects us, even though we think it does not. We try to block it out. It has an effect on us, especially, you know, in these days. Anyway, I'm going on a bit, but I think people will understand me when I say that. Please, you know, mental health and prayer and meditation, and go for a walk and have that 5 minutes to yourself, because we carry a lot of weight. We do.
How do you protect your mental health?
How do I protect my mental health? Well, there's a lot of things I've done. I meditate. My daughter is so good. My God, she's so good. You know, I get this little apps of meditation. I spoke to a therapist a couple of times, which was really, really good. I've never done that before, because, you know, which was good. But you got to find the right one. You know, because I don't really trust white people. Sorry. So you have to find the right one. Yikes! I said that with respect. With a huge respect. Well, how can they? You know, they don't know what's going on upstairs, love. Anyway, moving on swiftly. So these are things that one has to sort of try and venture out and into to try and cope. And if you're fortunate or whatever, but meditation is, I think, is a very, very good one. Absolutely.
I know you get emotional when you speak about your father. If your father was present now, what would be the conversation you would have with him if you could just have one last time?
Well, I love you. That would been there. And I know it's not just about emotion. It's about, again, the conversations which I never had. You know, again, that's what I'm trying to talk to you about when I say about getting to a sense of maturity and getting to a sense of growth or a distance. I never had the chance to really have that conversation with my father, where I could actually just, you know, be one-on-one, because he was always my dad, or my, you know, he was always that. And I think that's what happens in Red, White, and Blue. There's a point when then those two men, to a certain extent, become equal. That's right at the end of the picture, and you'll see, people will see the scene. So I never actually, I mean, my last words to my dad was, I love you. That was my last words to my dad, which was fantastic. And I got a chance to say that, and he said, I love you too, which was wonderful. And you know, we had a, you know, up and down relationship, but it was a relationship which was sort of, again, it was, he always wanted the best for me. And, you know, but he was so funny, my dad. He was just so funny. He was so funny. He was so, I mean, you know, he was so, people loved him. He was so funny. And, you know, he was a really good dad, because he was sort of, I mean, sometimes it could be, you know, as all dads, like you had a situation with dad, of course, but dads can be dads, particularly black men, because they're under so much damn pressure, to be honest with you. They are under so much pressure. You know, not just to be the man in the house, but to be the protector and the provider. And, you know, so I was very lucky to have that conversation with him, but also had many conversations with my father. You know, he was so, he was such a big, you know, he told me so many stories. He told me so many stories, and what he had to do even to be here. I'll tell you a story of my dad told me.
Mm-hmm.
So in the West Indies, they used to sort of, they used to go out. The young men, often they'd be chosen, or they had to go and try to pick fruits, pick oranges in Florida. A lot of people, you know, migrant workers.
Farm work. You call them up on farm work.
Exactly. Let's go, and then let's go to Florida and pick oranges. So one day he's in his bunk, and the other guys, whatever. So, and of course they weren't allowed out. There was, in this sort of compound, they go pick the oranges, and they come back, and that was it, you know, in Florida. So one time, these two Jamaican guys said, "Come, Phil, let's go to town." I said, "Okay, go to town." Okay, so these two Jamaican guys, my dad, they kind of snuck over the fence or whatever, and they walk into town, going to go and get a drink. So they go into this sort of saloon area, into this bar area. I don't know where it was in Florida, who knows? Doors swing open. These two Jamaican guys and my father come to the counter. And one of the Jamaican guys says to the bartender. Anyway, as they walk in, you can imagine these three black men in Florida. We're talking late 50s, okay? We're talking 50s. You can imagine these three black men walking in. You can imagine in Florida, people like, you know, they stop and they stop their drinking or whatever. Anyway, they walk to the counter. And one of the guys says, like to have a drink. And the barman said, we don't serve the N-word in here. So the Jamaican guy looked at him. You don't serve the N-words in here? Okay, then we'll serve ourselves. He picked up the bottle and smashed it over the man's head. And then all three of them ran out. They all ran out, run. And then they heard dogs behind them. There are people running. And then run. And dogs, they're running in the dark, in the blackness. They run, black, like that. And my dad hid in the dark into a ditch. And he heard bang. He heard bang. He had two bangs. And he's here hiding in the ditch. And then he said he must have been like hours he was there. And then slowly, surely, he kind of gets up and makes his way back to the camp, to the barracks, to whatever, the compound, wherever it is. He never saw those two guys ever again.
And your dad is from the island of Grenada, right?
Yeah. So you understand what I'm trying to say to you?
Yeah, and I understand.
Let me finish. He only told me that towards the end of his life. And I know he had been carrying that with him for all of his life, because he knew how precarious his life was and what could have happened and what didn't happen, but what could have happened, and therefore how careful he was with me, for example, my sister. Because when you go through something like that, you carry a lot with you, of course. Anyway, I'm done. I'm finished. So we start as we finish. Perspective, distance, time. You know, that story, they never told me that until towards the end of his life. I've been living by that time, you know, 40 odd years, 38 years or so. So, you know, it's time. It's time. You know. Okay, I'm off. Thank you so much. This has been a great talk.
You don't have time for one more question?
Nope, I'm gone.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for your time, Steve.
It was a really good pleasure. Bye-bye. See you later. Bye.
Well, thank you everybody for joining us. Steve did stay a little longer than he said he would, so we're grateful for the additional time. We hope you enjoyed the Cultural Archive presentation, and we hope to